Morning, everyone.
Hi, Square.
Morning, Professor Peters. How are you?
Good morning, everybody.
Morning from the car.
Kevin, hi.
Morning, Kevin. Morning, Kevin.
Morning, everyone. Morning.
Hi, Kaya.
Morning, Skura.
Morning, all.
Morning, everyone.
Oh, Mike's there too.
Morning, all.
Simba. Morning, Simba.
Morning.
Sabisa, Bonga, Vuyo, Lula
Morning,
Makalela.
Carl Wright.
Morning, sir.
Right.
Morning, everybody. Very excited to see you.
Kwandiwe Kwalela, hello. Hello, Bruce. CBC. Jumusani. Hi, Jumusani. Hi, Buyanda Kumba. It's good seeing you guys.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. Thank you, everyone, for joining this practice breakfast. We are profiling iQhayiya design workshop today, based down in the South Coast. It's not simply having a question or just saying hello. I see a hand already. Anyway, thank you everyone for joining. We have Kaya and Fundo presenting today. So they'll be going through the work that they've done as a practice over the last 10 years. I'm just gonna introduce them briefly, and then they will take the floor afterwards, as we usually do. We'll take questions. So Kaya Kwalela is the managing director at iQhayiya. Both him and Fundo studied at TUT. Kaya recently finished his urban design masters, which we'll hope to hear from him about it this morning. And Fundo is also a director at iQhayiya and part of our regional committee currently, and heads the CPD subcommittee. And they are both external seminars at TUT. Fundo started in 2019, Kaya just recently 2021. So they are friends and colleagues for a long time. Guys, over to you. You've muted, Kaya. You wanna unmute your speaker?
Thank you, Skura.
Lovely. Yeah,
okay.
sure.
Are we clear?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. Okay, morning, everyone. Morning, colleagues. Morning, friends. Morning, loved ones. Thank you, Skura, so much for inviting us. It is an immense honor and a privilege, actually, to be afforded this platform to actually share our journey. It's quite a lengthy one. We've been friends since 2006. We met in 2006 and instantly became friends. So we're looking at 16 years that we'll try and compress into just over an hour. So it's just a reflection, but we safely say that we started formally practicing in 2012. So this is a reflection of the last decade of our practice. So that makes it even more special because we're marking 10 years of practice with this practice breakfast. So thank you all. I'd like to first of all start by dedicating the practice breakfast to Kaya Kwalela's late parents, Utatu Uchucha, Ukekel, Urobot, Nomamu Machabangu, ngathi inkosi ngabaphumula phumula futhi nokhanya phakade kubakhanyele maphumula ukuthi amen. We are because they were, so we are quite grateful for all the support that they have given Ukaya before I met him, that they continue to give Ukaya and myself as their child as well. And they continue to give us iQhayiya from beyond. I'd also like to dedicate the practice breakfast to my parents who are still very much alive. You will see them on the right there with myself as a young man with dreadlocks at the time. We are also very grateful for their continued support, guidance, uthando lwabo, and we say to them, we are because they are in our lives. I'd like to also dedicate, or we would like to also dedicate the practice to our respective families, without whom we wouldn't have made it this far. So that the practice breakfast has actually afforded us the opportunity to do a reflection, and we are quite grateful of where we come from and where we are going, and the support that our families are giving us, both personally as well as professionally. And I'd also like to dedicate the practice breakfast to our team, which is our family, iQhayiya. We are a family. You'll see over the next couple of slides that the type of culture that we have in the practice is that of a family. So as well as to the collaborators that we have worked with over the past 16 years, whom have shaped us, strengthened us, and have made contributions, significant contributions to our journey. And then lastly, I'd like to dedicate and acknowledge our beautiful wives. One of them had the hand up, Skura. Unosihle, my wife, and my wife. Hi, baby. So we'd like to just thank you both for your support, for not diluting our relationship, because we've got an established relationship that we've had personally as well as professionally, and you have just come in and strengthened that over the years. So siyabonga kunina, siyanithanda, sithi asiqhubeke kanjalo moving forward. So I'll just I'll outline the background of the practice, how we met and what we've done, and then I'll take it up to the office culture, and then we'll just go a bit into some of the work that we have undertaken. So just forgive us if we go too fast, or if we just scroll through slides, because there's quite a lot of slides that we've put up. This slide in particular is the studio that we occupied. This was in 2008, I think, when we were doing our masters back in TUT. So I met Kaya in 2006, and he was, I would say the what's the word for that? It was in the minority, and he was also quite an overachiever at the time, and instantly became drawn to him. There was another fellow as well, Ufix, whom the three of us became friends. But in our postgraduate years, it was just the two of us in the minority. And I just say this just to highlight the nature of the profession, which we are all aware of, and work is obviously underway to deal with transformation and all of the likes of that. And we could have another separate talk just on the subject of transformation, but we are fortunate to have been afforded scholarships in our postgraduate years as a result of being in the minority. So we're able to then study, and we can safely say, having participated in recent years as external examiners, as Kura has mentioned, that we have witnessed incredible transformation, which is qualitative, which is also quantitative. So I must just put that out there, which will be a subject all on its own. In 2007, the slide just previously, I then joined iQhayiya. iQhayiya has always been a man of action. So he registered the business in 2006 as a direct response. We were doing urban design at the time, and we were being introduced to all these principles. And he realized that, hang on, he's from the rural Eastern Cape, Flagstaff, very small town, and has a very congested main street. And so he realized that actually there's an opportunity here. You can just put it on the previous one. And there's an opportunity here to actually be the change that I'd like to see in my small town, using the utilities that I've been equipped with. So he registered the business because when he engaged the municipality, they then indicated to him that they do not deal with individuals, but rather with entities. And that is how iQhayiya came to be. We both harbored ambitions of actually being in practice, being our own bosses from the onset. But I'm more of a procrastinator, and iQhayiya is the man of action. So in 2007, then I joined him, and then we've been collaborating ever since. And as I said earlier on, we then formally started practicing in 2012 when we both joined practice. And then more recently, we are now external examiners at our alma mater. And on the left screen there, you'll see Kaya's favorite person, one of Kaya's favorite people, Umarinda Bolts, who's also helped quite a lot in shaping our discipline in architecture. And then Skura has mentioned that, oh yeah, so I just wanted to add this as well here, that in 2019, I was afforded the opportunity to be on the SAIA-KZN awards. So one is now equipped to be able to, I always say jokingly, to be able to design a building that could be award-winning from that experience. In 2007, this was one of our first collaborations, social housing project in the rural Eastern Cape, so to be particular, where we dealt with topography and mixed use tenure. One of our first projects as well, Kaya has insisted I don't add this, but we'll skip right through it. And then our first builds project, this is just a screenshot from Facebook. So we've got an active Facebook account as well as an Instagram account. So this we nabbed from our Facebook back in 2011. And it was an extensive alterations and additions to an existing dwelling. And that's the only picture that we have over there. It was a project in the south of Joburg. And then this is another screenshot that one grabbed from Facebook, and our dear friend GP says, and we've highlighted it there, he says that we're gonna be bigger than we already are. And I don't know if he meant it literally. I tend to believe that he might have meant it literally, looking at us now compared to the picture that's up on the screen. But it's just a reflection.
Consequently, it's actually 10 years ago, which actually is today, some years back.
And then just for some of you may know the gentleman on the screen at the top, this was now in 2009, I think. And we were feeling quite confident that through means we met Usilo Makikanube, and we designed a house for him, which was a conversion of a single bedroom house at Dube in Soweto. And this was in 2010. So we did municipal submission drawings in 2010 or 11, I think, I can't remember. But the project sadly did not come to fruition, but we felt, we really fell in love with the project. Kaya had to be convinced about these roof profiles that we have there. But
I actually hated the roof so much, but later on in our years, we actually designed a lot of buildings with roofs are not necessarily ordinary.
But definitely a unique roof, eh? Definitely a unique roof.
Yeah, not very conventional at all.
Yeah.
And we managed to produce, I think, 5 or 6 bedrooms in that site, which currently has a single bedroom home. So we were quite chuffed with that. This is the first project that when Kaya because Kaya left to practice in 2011, and he set up shop in Kokstad, and he will just pay homage to the gentleman who's become our big brother over the years, who was actually one of the first people to actually grant us a commission, a significant commission at that. And then the previous to that, this was our first commission where we actually earned an income, which was a completion of this project in the Northern Cape. I think we earned quite a lot of money here.
Yeah,
it was a significant amount.
Probably 90% of our income at the time, annual income.
So we just put that there for good measure. So here's another image we've put up just for good measure. It was the World Cup at the UAE 2014, and then we had completely forgotten that we were invited by SAIA to actually put up posters in one of the exhibitions. Then we pulled this up from our Facebook, and this is our poster on the left. How do you do the
Go down a bit. Okay.
So we actually put up a poster there, and in reflection, one is quite chuffed to realize that our poster was actually adjacent to the celebrated World Architects. Yeah, so that's possibly a good omen. We don't know. And then the picture on the right shows our friends and our dear friends from TUT who've become our lifelong brothers and sisters. And also Kaya's
My mentor there, Sydney Lafifi. I hope you're also in attendance. This is probably one of the greatest influencers when it comes to my architecture at large, besides Mr. Errol Peters. Hi, Sydney.
I'm here, Kaya.
So Sydney and Kaya, to the best of my knowledge, when I joined the institution, they were the two shining beacons in the minority. I use the word advisedly, just to be politically correct, I think. But they were the two shining beacons who actually went through the system from start to finish without actually leaving the system. And we've been witness to a lot of people, most of whom are friends, who have actually had to leave study at the first point of exit, probably at national diploma, who had immense talent to actually take it all the way to being architects. Because of structural challenges that exist, there are socioeconomic and beyond. So the issue of transformation is yet again quite an important issue that we need to deal with. This is just when we started practicing. So Kaya got his professional license in 2011, and he then, this is a certificate that he got subsequent to that. So then it was the propeller to actually start a setup shop. So he moved down to the eastern, to southern KZN, Kokstad. And so, yeah.
But perhaps we should mention that I did the exam only once and I passed it.
Yeah. Well done to you, Kyle. Well done to you.
Great.
And then the marketing is quite important as well. So on the left is our architects directory amongst very, very respected architects that we held in high regard and still hold in high regard, and we are right there at the corner there. So this was just one of those screenshots that one came across, a profile that we put together back then, probably our first or second profile.
I think also mentioned that we used design profiles a lot more than we actually did the buildings that give us an income at the time.
And then just above there is just our first office, repurposed second bedroom of Kaya's apartment that I took over when he moved down to Kokstad. This was in Joburg West. And we were there for about 2 years, 2012 to about 2014. And then we set up a small office also in Joburg before coming down to Kokstad. Then this is at the bottom is the image of the office down in Kokstad, which was
which was shared between ourselves and an engineer called Mr. Zogo, who is hopefully in attendance here. And we had a nice gentleman, Mr. Buye, the quantity surveyor, who also helped us quite a lot, establish and settle in Kokstad.
And we also pay just homage to those gentlemen because especially Mr. Buye, he was the first person to actually entrust us with our first commission. Some of our very first projects when we had set up shop, this was in Joburg. I mean, this was in Frere, but we were doing it from Joburg because it was, we were trying to coerce EdCon to come into the project. And then we just put this as a tongue in cheek, also as a reflection as well of the cost of actually doing business. And When we saw this, we were like, "Hey, if only we could go back to these times." But we made a cool 200 in our first year of practice, which is not bad, one would say. Our first project, part of the NSIP 5 station improvement, which then I started heading when I left off practice. When I left employment after iQhayiya. And then we'll just quickly go through our office culture. So the slide on the screen indicates or shows over time the collaborative design approach that we employ at the practice. So the images at the top show the scheme that we're grappling with, and we were actually mapping it out or sketching it out on our black chalkboard. And we were all collaborating on that scheme. The other slides also show the collaborative effort that happens in the office. The top right slide is actually a business plan project that we're busy working on. So we integrated all members of the team, even the non-technical members there. And then these slides are dating back to our school days when we started collaborating. You'll see the gentleman Malvin there on the screen, who was one of our friends and also collaborated with us on the work that we did during those years. And then the rest of it just shows how we actually engage and in trying to find solutions for problems. These are the images that you would have seen at the landing page, but it also just re-emphasizes the process that we try and undertake. We believe we're still very much traditionalists. We try and be traditionalists. So we build models, we sketch quite a bit. We build finished models as well to show off to the clients. Other models are there to actually explore ideas. We sketch to explore ideas, to explore possibilities. We also improvise. So the image on the center there is an image of a bump that was on Kaya's glass. So this was like a glass, a window. So this became like a glass table, an improvised glass table. And those are beautiful sketches of one of the projects that we will go into in a bit. And then the slide that's on the screen now just is also one of the backbones of the practice, is that we tender quite vigorously and quite a lot. The image in the center of the screen you will see is a collection of tender supporting documents. I can safely say that in the past 4 or 5 years, we started actually putting the numbers putting the cost to what it takes to put up bids, and we can probably say that we could pay for 2 senior technologists with the cost that it takes for us to tender. So, but it also doesn't guarantee us the work. We get about less than 1% of all the tenders that we go.
Can you say that again? Less than what percentage of what successful tenders?
0.7% at the last count of all the tenders that we submit.
Yeah.
So our business model is designed in such a way that the admin side, which is responsible for compiling tenders, is probably 60% of the technical team that actually does the work that we actually get from the tendering work or the marketing that we actually do. So quite a large portion of our practice is comprised by the actually support staff.
Support staff.
And tenders as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So later on, you'll actually have questions relating to this, but we'll actually get those answers as we carry along.
So this is just a collage of the different offices that we have occupied over the years. The first on the left was our Pride and Joy, which was an outright purchase that we made of that building in Kokstad, which is still quite dear to us. Then this was the most recent office that we were located at, which is just up the road from where we are now. And then this was also another one of our ideas that we started messing around with colors on, which is the one on the right. And then we've had, at the last count, I think 55 people that have come through the doors of iQhayiya and have been our collaborators or our part of the team. So those are some of the names there. Excuse. And then these are just images of the office, the vibrancy of the office. I did mention that there's a spirit there's a family spirit in the office, and these images sort of try to show that we enjoy our cake, we celebrate birthdays quite actively, and you'll see that oak table is probably the third oldest item in the practice. So you'll see that table quite a lot, and if you do visit us, you will get to actually embrace it. So these are just also images of that office culture. And then Kaya has quite delightfully introduced flowers to our environment. We also celebrate end-year functions. We sometimes go out. Okay, you'll see that in the next slide. And then we've got an image of the guys that we work with as well in our Pretoria office, and also our collaborator in our Cape Town office. So yeah, some of the happy times that we've had over the years. I'm sure people that are in attendance could spot their faces here and there.
And some of the guys who actually appear in these pictures are now architects, professional architects, or professionals in technology, and they've gone through the system itself.
So we've mentored at the last count over 10 of such people. So some of them are in these slides as well. And then we lift as we rise. We believe that at the onset when we met, we realized that we have an altruistic nature about ourselves, and that was an endearing quality that probably connected us even further. So this is just a slide of one of the first social responsibilities that we undertook in collaboration with Ole Bukunguluza and I've just forgotten the chap's name now, where we actually did a bit of motivation speaking to a school in Limpopo. And then we also had the opportunity to collaborate with Metro FM, where we assisted two separate families in building their home. And then in the past 7 years, we've been an active partner in iPondo Chiefs, whom we sponsor as the primary sponsor. And yeah. And then iQhayiya has taken the pleasure and privilege of actually designing all of the kits, which has become his side hustle. And then I'd like to also just mention that, how am I going too slow? So I've had some people, friends or friends of mine saying that, why are you, Mfundo in particular, not setting up your own Pondo Chiefs? And then I would say to them, but we are not dimmed by each other's light. We believe in a collaborative efforts in actually taking the brand forward. So we are actually, and we also in the inverse, we also take collaborative responsibility for our disappointments and failures.
You complement each other.
So we've had, at the last count, I think 95 projects, previous and current projects. These are some of them that we've highlighted there as a slide. And then the first project, one of the first projects that was built, the second project I'd say that was built was a bus depot in the Lusigisi in the former Transkei. Here it's a utilitarian building, so there was not a lot that one could have done, but we tried to work on forms, we tried to work on texture. You will see the the brick pattern on the right, and maybe in the other central slide, which actually got us into a lot of fights with our builder at the time, but he actually was quite chuffed when he saw the outcome in the end. The building still stands, and it was well received by the client. And yeah, so these are just basically the slides of the building. You can see the bus on the left, AB350 Limited. And it was quite a pleasure, a good client to work with. And then we did an experimental project, which was a bit of fun, where we introduced an EnviroLoo system for the ablution facility. And then we played with different forms and how they juxtapose against each other, and a bit of texture as well. And then the next project, I'll let Mr. Kwalela to just take us through as one of our key projects.
Thank you. This project probably gave us the kind of launch we were looking for in terms of establishing ourselves and marking our arrival in the space. This is an office park in Flagstaff for a municipality, in Iqhayiya local municipality in the Eastern Cape. These are some pictures of the context itself. As you can see, the top left picture, that's where the site was at the time. We demolished all those buildings. Look at the urban context and urban fabric, the buildings to the sides. Very early on, we then decided to come up with a criteria in terms of defining the concept strategy for the building itself. It was clear to us that we had to look at a building that performs thermally without having an active sort of system at large. We had to do a catalytic environment, a hybrid internal street to sort of arrange the building itself, the service spaces and the served spaces. We also, importantly, we had to look at a building that comments on the local history of Amampondo, and also create a building that has helps engages the community of the municipality or the officials themselves. And obviously, we also had to look at a considered sense of spatial progression within the building itself. The pictures to your left, to your right-hand side, are that of our assemblage, which we always do before we start any project, just to assess the scale, how the building relates to its urban context. Maybe I must just go back quickly here. Also, we looked at the landscape as a space where we actually create human relations. It was also an obsession of ours to ensure that we create a great perceptual quality of environment, and also develop cohesion within the staff, and also design the landscape as a continuous connectivity, externally and internally and other way. And also importantly, to articulate the landscape as a complementary, continuous and a connected extension of the built form. The image to your far left shows the actual building that which we designed, and how the landscape actually animated and activated the edges or the edge condition of the building. The image to the left shows the concept strategy, again, the drawings and the development of the spaces in between the building wings. We always look at sketches quickly before and explore different iterations, etc., just to see that you're on the right sort of path. The next image shows the actual building now that we designed. You will actually sort of see how we anchored the building down with those thick columns, and then also you will also see the pediment on the far left of the image itself, which is more like that of a Greek pediment with those Greek column orders. And then you'll also see on the far left, also my point here, I think most importantly is also this portion over here of the building. This is where the entrance is. I spoke of commenting on the history of Flagstaff Hill at large. That is to commemorate and sort of celebrate the history of Amampondo, particularly the massacre that happened in the 1960s, in Hill massacre, and what it actually did to the cultural landscape of Amampondo, causing confusion, distraction. The image to your left shows our 3D render, and the image to the right shows the complete building six years later or so. We are now showing you here the festivities that we'd like to embark upon, where when we commence construction of a building, we do this kind of celebrations, festivities for the clients. You can see the municipal manager there and the mayor themselves. And we do this because we understand and appreciate the fact that it might be the last time we are close and dear friends with our clients. Images of the building in its complete state. I'd like to draw your attention to the far left image, which is also another celebration of what happened in the 1960s and the 1970s, where any homestead or building that had a large or expansive application of glass would be taxed slightly more than anyone else. And people decided to have timber shutters as a sort of solution so that they run away from taxes, etc. So we're actually inverting that story here, and we are putting more glass and just more small insertion opening. And then also here, I'd like to draw your attention to the second image to your left, which shows a device which we use to ensure that the building is a little bit more sustainable than it would have been. We've got a light chimney there that sort of brings in light and sort of dispels of hot and unused air. And that's the building at large. And also just some kit of parts. I spoke of the internal street, a hybrid sort of space. The image to your far left. Sorry, your far right. This thing is just distracting. The image to your far right shows that internal street, which is a service space, really, and how we sort of dealt with scale and how we defined, and how we actually defined circulation areas within the building. This is where the building was actually handed over to the client, and we wanted to create a space of many places. You can see the building in action. You can see the reception, how animated it is. We spoke of that street again, a very important component to our building and how it actually functions. Just trying to, do you want to say something?
So there were opportunities as well to bring in light and to also bring in the external environment. And this is how we dealt with such situations, so that circulation spines do not end up in dead ends. They become opportunities. And then Kaya also mentioned that the spine in the previous slide, and it was intended to actually showcase local artisans and local artists. So the building is created as a white building on the inside, and it becomes a blank canvas for reiteration, for iteration in future.
I spoke of courtyards as places as outdoor spaces, culturally expressive landscapes, to also develop perceptual quality within the environment itself, and also help to reinforce social sustainability. And these spaces also helped cool the building down, and also as places of interest. We wanted to design a building that does not necessarily have any back. So that is the most southern part of the building, which we would say it's the behind of the building itself. But we had to pay attention to it and how we articulate the facade itself. Just more images showing the landscape, how the light chimney works, and that south elevation or that back elevation. Just some elements. And it's also important to note that as part of our design philosophy, we usually express ourselves using detailing, not as a mere technical sort of task, but as a vehicle for expression. Some images when the building was handed over to the client again, and we decided to quote Linda Mvusi there, one of our favorite Black female architects. We can't see, yeah. Can just move it maybe to the top or minimize it. Yeah. One of our proudest moments, also echoed by Moshe there. Now, I think most importantly, after doing this big project for the first time in our capacity, we had to sort of analyze what lessons did we learn, what failures were we exposed to, and what sort of lessons can we take forward to our next project. We will not essentially present this project to you right now, but we just want to illustrate what lessons we've learned and took forward. This is a building in Bizana, it's in the Eastern Cape. It is municipal council chamber and a town hall. So what came to our mind was that the outside of your building is the inside of our city or town or urban area or whatever the case is. We didn't take that into consideration when we designed that the building that you just presented to you. The edge condition factor was not taken as a generator to the actual design to actually activate the street and actually become part and parcel of the urban realm. So we sort of coined some lessons there. I'll just read them out to you just so we were on the same page. So we understand that the edge condition itself is a place of heightened activity. It is a place of inherent variety and contrast, a place where social territories meet. So with these two sketches to your far left, to your far right, actually demonstrate what a public building should contribute in animating the urban realm. The sketch to your top left shows how a public building has a potential to become an urban funnel. We also coined that an edge condition is a place of tension, a place of intensification, and a place of conflict. And it is a challenge to architects to address that well in terms of also contributing to activating the edge of any particular street and animating the city at large. So these are some of the images that actually talk about what a public building can actually become an urban funnel and what an edge should feel and or look like.
And just to add, it's the most public of buildings because it is a municipal building and it is a place where the tension ought to happen or the conflict ought to happen. And so we've actively put the building on the street. We've actively created the building as a transparent building so that there is that constant interaction with the public.
And these are the images of the construction site as is. And what you'll appreciate here is our intervention in terms of correcting what we did wrong in the previous project, how we then confront and engage the street. Bottom left, you will see that the pedestrian sort of area there was a mere 1 meter. Then the rest of the space was dedicated to cars, which is the same thing we did in Flagstaff. So we wanted to design a people-centric space here, where we say people are more important than anything. You can see how we then moved people, or how we intend to move people from the edge of the street and then put them inside and circulate within that urban lung, which is what we call it. The image to the top of your left will actually illustrate that a little bit more. We have opportunities there for people to set up their stalls and for people to enjoy, just sitting there, enjoy the day. Yeah. So that resulted into an additional project. When we presented this to the municipality, our strategy in terms of how we want to create a people-centric space, an opportunity arose then where we had to do another space that supports what we are putting together. So I wanted to design a place, a public space as a social infrastructure, accessibility as a design and social generator, and generating quality within the public spaces where most cities in the Transkei don't actually have. Also, I spoke about human-centric design approach and cohesive environment where we deal with fragmented spaces. And one thing that is almost, most people don't necessarily look at is informality within urban space. So I wanted to have a space that is personalized, that can actually accommodate formality and informality. So this project became a market square and a small mini drop-off and pickup zone for taxis to support what the precinct already wants to become.
Okay, thank you, Kaya. So the next project that we just want to outline is a project that sadly never got built. It is up the road in Potchefstroom, where we were appointed by Department of Public Works, KZN, for the for the Kota offices. It will be a local office for Amakosi as well as the admin component of it. The project is over 2 elves that would have needed to be consolidated, and the site is very close to the ocean. and it also has that railway line that actually divides the coastline to the land or to the shore. This is just a quick image of our site analysis. The existing built fabric is an existing heritage building. We actually appointed our dear friend Robert Brucer to be our heritage architect on this scheme. And then this is just a collage of images that actually show the topography, which are sloping and cascading down towards the shoreline. Some internal images of the building, which we intended to actually restore and repurpose. Just an extract from Robert Brucer's submission as the heritage architect, some of the principles that we wanted to bring through of how to deal with habitable spaces on that very difficult locality close to the shoreline or close to the ocean. Some other local examples on the top, a building by Kate Otten, which is a law firm building, and then at the bottom, a building by our dear design workshop in La Lucia, which also had that additional layer of a screen that dealt with the building at the top was to deal with the traffic on Jansmat, and the building below was to deal with the harsh conditions of building right up close to the beach. Here's another example of actually integrating nature, topography, and as well as into the building. And the building at the top is by the famous Raul Merotra. Just the concept was, as I've unpacked it now, I'm not gonna go too much into detail on that, but these are just sketches that sought to look at the building. A collection of the ideas and some initial sketches at the top right. And then these are the iterations that we came up with. So this would be the view from the street where we kept the building, but we did a bit of work on the facade. And then we integrated, and so the building to the right of the screen would be the new building that would house the council chamber for Makosi and admin offices and support spaces, smaller meeting rooms. And then the upper building, we kept it for iQhayiya itself, which is there's a relationship that exists between the two, a continuous relationship, and that building at the top would be the heritage building. And there was an interplay between celebrating heritage and whose heritage it is, anyways, and then also bringing in a modern interpretation. So there was that constant tension between the two structures, especially for that type of client. And then these are just floor plans. The section on the bottom of the screen are the additions, and then the top would be the repurposing of the heritage building or of the colonial building. Just a zoomed in version of the ground floor plan. And then a lower ground, because we're dealing with topography. So the strategy was to build the building over 2 levels, which you will see shortly. Some interior design images. At the time, we had an interior design in our full-time employee, so we really extracted value out of that. I'm sure he's also in attendance here. But this was just how do we create a gradiency of scale. These are just sections of how we intended to deal with topography, moving from a very suburban scale to the right of the screen, and how it interfaces with the rest of suburbia, because it is quite a suburban context. And then how it deals with the issue of the views and the issue of actually creating opportunities. And then there's a condition, 2 conditions where we created some places of shelter, which are these courtyards, and then the places of opportunity as well, which are opening up towards the views. Another view of approaching the building, that's the colonial building to the top of the screen. Universal access is very important, as we all know. And then this is the connection between the 2 buildings, which needed to remain in active in an active relationship and intention as well, I would say. Some of the screening there, this is the northern facade. So we're able to just bring in some landscaping elements to the screen to actually soften and to create layers and to layer the building. And also animate the courtyard space that you would see there. Another view of the courtyard from above, which is the northern aspect of the building, the connection point over here, as well as the eastern, this would be the eastern aspect of the building. So we dealt with those elevations differently. Some recreational facility adjacent to the admin component of the project of the building, where we created a sunken dry area, fire pit. The connection point between the two, the new building to the right and the colonial building to the left, which both serve a unified function now. Just another view of the council chamber that one would see from the south. We created a bit of layering as well, as I've indicated. This screen will show when you've opened all the screens that are facing towards the ocean, and when you've closed the screens, when they're open and when they are closed. And then this is just the last view that I'll end on this project. You will sort of appreciate that will be the council chamber on that side. This will be the admin offices, and then a bit of Art Deco inferences as well there. Yeah. Okay, next project is
Greater Municipality trading stalls in KwaZulu-Natal. I'll just go very quickly here. So when we were given this project, awarded this project, it became clear to us that we had to embark on a very conservative approach in terms of our architecture, due to the heritage value that Kokstad actually possesses. So a modern form as a considered layer to the existing rich heritage urban layer had to be considered. We had to design this project as part of a street furniture grouping and also as an urban device. We also looked at ensuring that we can actually, well, I must mention that at the time, Kokstad had a problem with water. So we had to make sure that we try and sort of design a structure that can actually harvest rainwater for any sort of use later on. The actual concept within its urban setting. And then the actual sort of structure within now when it was built and finished and how people engaged and used it.
So the next project, Gomakutla, we just needed to make it a bit local. We were appointed, this was one of our first projects in 2000, one of our earlier projects in 2013. We collaborated with my architects, Sponiso, and at the time he hadn't set up shop. And then in the images there you'll see also Mzuzu whom we used his offices to work for. The project is SMME hub, where we are repurposing this existing hub, Wamakuta, which is also in a suburban setting, but it's a very public building that is at the end of a cul-de-sac, access from the end of a cul-de-sac. You can see the grain there. And the idea here was to integrate the building. You would have seen in the images that I quickly went through, there was a topography, an issue of topography. So the idea was to integrate the building to the street, but also try and hide the scale of the building from the street because it was still in a very suburban setting. And that is the sketches to the right of this image would illustrate that. We worked with Alan Shazi on this project before he ascended to his current office. And then this is just that interface with the street. You'll see this is another section where there was a ramp, stair ramp that happens there to actually have a relationship with the street. This is from the other side of that where the servicing would happen. So this was for SMMEs that are currently established on the site. Just some floor plans at the time. Yet another image. And then there's also an existing daycare facility in that precinct. So we had to integrate that quite actively in our project. So we brought that to the street for spatial gradient purposes. And then we also had created a private playing area around an existing mature tree on the site. This just indicates the sort of levels that we're dealing with here. We took the project up to tender stage, but sadly, but quite not too bad. The project remains at the reception of full city architects now, but it didn't materialize.
How are we doing in terms of time? We've gone through 40% of our presentation. I'm not too sure how.
40%. You can go on till quarter to 9. It's okay.
Okay, we'll
because 15 minutes can be questions. That's still fine.
Okay. Yeah, we'll race through the next one. So this is social development, one of our the only commission that we got without discounting our fees. So this was quite a special project. Full fees on this for Public Works Eastern Cape. Okay, why is it not on? Okay, as you know, the process has been outlined already. Some images of the building. And then the beauty about this is that we often have a culture of taking the office, yes, the team, to sites, including the non-technical members of the team, to actually start having a conversation about what actually the end result of what they do in the office is. So it becomes quite a useful exercise. And this image actually shows the actual built project on the left, and then this was how we had intended it on the right with an artistic impression. And even here, Mr. Architect's over on the screen there with the finished product on the right and how it was envisaged on the left. Yet again, images, and the lady actually pointing out there is actually used to be one of our finance person. So she speaks as if she's speaking about the architecture, which is quite nice to see.
Mfundo,
yes,
maybe one of your most celebrated projects, I think, on social media. This one, am I wrong?
Oh, okay.
Now I know you were happy while you were doing it.
Yeah. So there were also a lot of lessons learned, as always. One of our earlier commissions in Deep Kloof, Soweto, it was a housing project, Region D, at Deep Kloof. So here we tried to integrate principles that we had learned about housing, but housing is housing, and the less we say about housing, the better. We are not experts in that field. Another project that we did, which is a completed project, traffic department officers. I got to work with Uminentle Makanya, who was an idol himself, and Undabo Langa were idols when we started out studies. So one actually got to work with their mentor. Rural projects in the Eastern Cape, a very small scale, but it introduced us to lots of legislation and opportunities of actually empowering in terms of localization, short-term employment, and how people actually embrace the project. How do you actually build projects for the small people? I mean, for the low income people. So these were quite special projects in that regard. Project in Mount Elif, Isanami.
Some of you will be very familiar with this project. It was published.
Yeah, it was published it was published in your journals, Kura.
In the journal, in Wally Peters' journal.
Wally Peters' journal, Changing Colors. Yeah, you were a guest editor.
Absolutely, yeah.
Just picks off the process. I won't really go through this. So the building is the back of the orange and gray building. This is what we are presenting here to you.
And the materiality is quite critical because I took some of these photos quite recently, and how the building has actually weathered it's quite remarkable. So kudos to the team that chose those materials. some spaces internally and externally. It was quite a utilitarian building, but it also had to interact with its surrounding. And then the opening, the obligatory opening of the building, and the pictures and the media. Umzimkhulu, yes, our dear friend Robert Brusa. This is a project that we are working with our dear friend as well. And this is the context of the building. This was the building at the time when we took over. These are some of the proposals, not the proposal, this is the proposed intervention on the project. A model of the scheme. It's got a heritage component to it, and that's where Robert Brusa comes in. And there's a tension that happens between the two buildings. We found this building already built, so we have had to repurpose and to reimagine how that relationship can be fostered. Because initially, this building that was here was actually had no relationship with this building here. So we've actually sought to create that relationship by bringing in that element and then celebrating that space in between as a public space that connects the two buildings. Just the side plan of that building section through the building. It's a public building with meeting rooms and offices and an auditorium for public use, as well as this heritage component of the building, which is proposed as a gallery for the town of Umzimkhulu. This is the building in probably 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago. So we're still a bit away from completion, but it's progressing quite well. Some of the internal and some of the details there. Another small project that we did in Mount Elif, which remains quite dear to us because of the scale and how it actually interacted with its users, currently used by the NYDA as offices, some details there. A project in Greater Kokstad Municipality, the obligatory handing over of the project. Kaya is in there with the with the mayor, as well as Mr. Samora Matigizela. The project is as a result of a business plan that we had undertaken to actually reimagine that park as a sports and recreational facility. Some images of the existing what you call it? Kai is rushing me here.
Yeah, only 10 minutes to go.
So this is an image of the proposed scheme at large, and then we've managed to do the first phase of the project, which is constituted of the change rooms, which you will see there, and then a swimming pool behind that, and a soccer and rugby combi court to the right, and other supporting facilities. The building is quite a linear and quite a heavy building, so we've had to devise means to actually hide and soften the scale of the building, but it sits in a park setting, so it needed to also embrace that setting. Some images of construction of the pool, the building itself, and how people interact with it. Some internal images. The building is still in final stages of construction. Some scaling devices there to deal with the human scale, how the building actually interacts with different the topographies. And then Kaya wants to just have a go at this.
A very dear project to me and my family. It's our homestead in Flagstaff, where I was born and raised. These are the pictures showing the existing homestead as it is now. The context in and around the site itself. I grew up here looking at that landscape over there. This is my family now when we're doing sword turning, my brother, my sister, and their wives, and all the kids. This is when we're doing a setting out with a local builder. Obviously, because of financial constraints, we had to look at building an envelope out of something non-conventional in our days. These are the guys who are doing the blocks from Flagstaff as well, mud stabilized blocks. Some features of the homestead itself. My parents are resting there at this point in time, right in proximity of the homestead itself. Concept was very fundamental. We had to create some form of sort of disjointed spaces with positive spaces in between, as learned from the existing. And then the social space had to happen there because that's where we do all the activities, all the ceremonies, concept development there, how the architecture would look and feel like. Now I spoke about the in-between spaces, which are metaphorical representation of those spaces within the existing household, homestead itself, and some of the design development pictures. Obviously, with these fragmented spaces, we had to sort of devise some form of concept where we said a continual line will actually gather, order, scale, and arrange a sequence of fragmented activities. These are some of the pictures of the model that we took, we made when we were actually building the building itself. These are another finished images of the interior. Now that the spaces in between the buildings, we have to ensure that each and every room here has got some form of exposure to north, and it can actually cross-ventilate with ease. Poetry there as well. And landscape reclamation, taking over now. Some of the pictures, it's really unfinished. Daniel Peskind spoke of unfinished things. Who am I to finish and complete things in time? These are another pictures that we took in December when we welcomed my wife at home. You can see how well the building accommodated everyone in the actual ceremony. A very dear project as well, probably the best, my most favorite project in the whole office. It was a pro bono building, a project that we did in Coxted. Rodney Hub, I'm not too sure if you're here, you know the site very well, where your open air cathedral is located.
Easier.
Yes, yeah. Oh, hi, Rodney. Some concept images of a building we repurposed, we designed some years ago. And because we didn't necessarily have time, so we had to look into the office, what do we have, what can we repurpose and accommodate for this particular project. These are some of the earlier images or design images. Then the bottom right picture is that of the finished building. Slightly different, but sort of the same sort of essence. Section and plans, when we built the building and some of the principles, when we handed over the building, this was very emotional for me, being an Anglican and having designed a building where the Anglican actually sort of embraced how through we were to the materials. I didn't like this tall window, but my partner here insisted, and I must concede, it came out very well. I just move very quickly. Some of the interior images. A house we did in Bizana as well, for a prominent client. Another building, I'm not going to talk about the President Study, but one of our first buildings as well, Traffic Department in Umzimkhulu, some 3D images, images of the finished product at the end, the interior to your left, how we actually layered the facade. The picture to your left shows a welcome signage we also did for Umzimkhulu municipality, where we took the footprint of Umzimkhulu.
As it is now. And it was a direct translation of what the map is of Umzimkhulu. Yeah, that's basically what it is.
Another project we did in Venda now. It's a TVET college. I'm not going to go through the principles, but you can also see them to your left. This is what we did.
So we're basically creating a campus. So we needed to have these guiding principles in the creation of that or establishing of that campus.
And using the red soil is part and parcel of the architecture itself, the red earth wall to your right. Some of the concept sketches we did for the admin building and how it came out.
In between spaces is very important. And here's another project that we're doing an extension of an existing campus for TVET College in Ladysmith, Mnambeti. where those principles are also permeating through of how we actually integrate the spaces in between the buildings. And then this is a project that we are also currently involved in with a partner of ours in Joburg, GLH Architects. We're in joint venture on this project, and we've actually broken ground. And this is the image of us all with the client, whom I'm not allowed to disclose at this point in time. And also the where the project is now, the bulk earthworks currently.
So if things might go up until 9 o'clock or so, so let you bear with us quickly. One of our last projects, Ivor Daniels.
Go ahead, guys. Go ahead. This is beautiful.
Ivor Daniels, you'd be very familiar with the site. It's in Port St. John's. I believe you grew up and you're raised. You grew up in Port St. John's.
Yes. Ivor is only white by his skin color. He grew up in Port St. John's.
Oh yeah, I know. So we'll ask for the municipality to put together a concept for their offices, and also to devise urban strategies of what the city would look like and what direction they should actually take. So we put together those principles, which I will not read. This is the concept that we put together for the municipality to ensure that you facilitate some civic engagement and creating positive and responsive spaces for people. Social life of public spaces contribute to the quality of individuals and society.
And integrating the building into its
urban context.
Because it's quite a lush environment as well there. So you'll see that it's quite the integration of that. Further images just showing the building and as it's proposed, and then to speak about these things. Yeah.
So in terms of responding to the context and acknowledging the people of the place, we had to ensure that we create some form of affinity between the building and the end users themselves. And our urban design sort of background, which is now starting to influence our architecture at large, also was very prominent within this project. Lastly, perhaps my thesis now for urban design that I submitted at Wits University not so long ago. Those are some of the questions that I asked myself and sort of hope to respond to, but it was actually creating a true democratic space for African cities and some form of sub-questions that I had there. My site is in Bisho. Some of you will be very familiar with former Ciskei homeland capital, which is now the administrative city or town for the Eastern Cape government. Some of the images showing the redundant environment within the precinct itself. I don't know why I put in this one here. And so my methodology was to actually look and understand what was happening pre-apartheid, during apartheid, and post-apartheid era. And obviously look at the environmental order as a design strategy, and also just to respond to what the environment actually tells us, so that the vision was to sort of integrate rural and urban linkages, create urban commons. In terms of my literature review, I looked at connectivity, public space, and adaptive reuse of the high value apartheid infrastructure that is currently there in Bisho. So as part of my synthesis, this is what I put together, and this is how I saw the actual Bisho functioning and working, where you put people back together to the environment that was fragmented, that was not necessarily designed for them. I identified a zone of activity. This is what now the design itself, where I used a lot of urban landscape urbanism design principles in order to re-inject life back to Bisho. So the existing redundant spaces were used as agricultural sort of experiment areas. 2 minutes. Some of the images, how the green infrastructure was used to prime the spaces that don't essentially work. The market for people, the housing development, which was also infused with some agriculture. We also included cattle within the urban space as well, which we believe that was the noble thing to do in terms of creating economy, etc. People working, the ground itself. how we stitched the urban environment through cooperation, how we integrated the sports precinct and the social amenities within the urban fabric itself, and how we use streets as water recycling sort of areas and spaces, and how we then store that water and use it back to support the green infrastructure that we're putting together, and how we rescript urban spaces that were there. And then that ends our presentation for the day. Stop sharing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well done, guys. Well done, guys. And I'm glad that you actually gone through all your slides. We'll just have interaction and take it from there. One thing, let me just go through the keywords, right? I mean, your sketches are prolific. The use of models for form making is absolutely beautiful. You talk of public space inside, outside, food security, community empowerment, upon the chiefs. There's absolutely so much that you guys have said in such a short space of time. And unfortunately, this is the time we have, and you've managed to compress it. And I want you to not be disheartened by rushing through your presentation. It's actually more of a compliment than anything else. It just means that you have that much work that you guys have put together. You have passed one test that most architects do not pass. As far as a human settlement is concerned, Khaya, with the house as portrayed, people come to communities and propose alternative construction. Uliana Mpahla has done it in Cape Town with sandbags, 10 by 10, that was only designed in Daba. You've actually used mud bricks to do your own home. The question that people always ask when you come as an architect to present an idea, a new idea about alternative construction, is what type of building do you live in? It's always a question. So people, architects present so many different ideas to clients, to people, to communities, the end user, that you could do this, you could do this. But for someone to actually come and say, this is what I've done in my own home, this is what I've done in my own house, it is actually something that's absolutely beautiful, Khaya. Well done for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. And there, actually, the mud brick is thermally much better than a cement brick.
Of course,
it's more cost effective, and it's definitely much better, and therefore it says African, you know. So guys, I think for the first time, I think in the practice briefers we've had a scenario where we have had so many contemporaries of the firm presenting were outside of the region. That's beautiful. And so many family members and so many people who collaborate with you in terms of the office. And so when you talk about iQhayiya as being a family, we can see it because people who are no longer with you in the practice have joined the talk. And so it is definitely what it was supposed to be in terms of a celebration of what you guys have done over the years. And from your one of your first civic buildings, which is Flagstaff, inspired by a lot of the people that you look up to. You are not ashamed to say that you have been inspired by Design Workshop SA, formerly OMM. But looking at Bizana, looking at Port St. John's, there's been an evolution of something that now brings what your guys' character is. And I think from my side, I think it's just congratulations, guys. You've done so well. And it's actually, it's a good thing that you've had to rush through everything that you've done. You have to compress everything that you've done over the last 10 years. And it's absolutely beautiful, guys. Thank you so much. I'll just open the floor, colleagues, to people who have comments and family members. Some of them I know. Your collaborators, I know all of them, I think. And let's just have the floor on what you guys want to say. Siboniso? My architect, you have the floor. I think it's just a thumbs up, maybe. Okay. Any other hand, colleagues?
Okay.
But I'm getting so many messages through the chat box. Ivor, Sydney, you can go ahead.
Hi. Colleagues, I love these guys.
Sydney.
I just want to say, yeah, can you see me? Kaya, Fundo, I'm very proud, guys. I love you guys.
Thank you.
Keep it up. I'll always be by your side. I've had a very pleasant morning. All my stresses of the week are now over. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Sydney. And Zuzo?
Good morning, Mr. President. Gentlemen, iQhayiya,
Yes, sir.
and distinguished guests. What an amazing performance. What an amazing presentation that we are seeing this morning. iQhayiya, gentlemen, I must say, I'm truly inspired, especially from you are the guys that we saw start things out in front of me. I remember even iQhayiya carrying his model in 2008 to present to Mr. Team. Guys, your level of excellence is beyond comprehension. You are an inspiration to us. May you please continue in unity. I often see partnerships often end up in conflicts. But I just want to know from you guys, how have you been able to work together and be able to grow such a great company? Obviously, your ideas may be different at times, and how do you handle those conflicts? Maybe this would actually be an advice to some of us who may want to partner with people. Thank you.
Good question, Zuzo.
Thank you, Zuzo. Thank you, my boy.
So do we answer it now? Oh, okay. So I mentioned it earlier on that we are not blinded by each other's light. So we've come to the point where our relationship has matured to that point where we trust each other on decisions. And we were friends before we were business partners. So I think maybe that's also another indicator. I'm not sure, but we are not blinded by each other's lights. We tend to actually revel in the opportunities of that light, you know, collaboratively.
Yeah, thank you. There's a question from Vuyo. The balance between creative arts and delivery, especially for government work. Vuyo Kwalela. What can you say, guys?
How do we balance the creative art versus the budget? It's a very difficult balancing act.
Yeah, especially for government work. Yeah.
Dear friend, Mr. Buyeye, Mr. Buyeye, the chap that that gave us our first appointment. That is the fight that we always have with him because he's a quantity surveyor. So the way that I would say is that we've worked quite predominantly as a multidisciplinary team. So in that sense, for these projects, we are then able to engage with the different disciplines in terms of managing budgets. But obviously, the architects are always the bad guys because we look beyond the now. Often that always doesn't happen. So you will see that sometimes we have to make compromises, and landscaping is always usually the first compromise that the QSs will go for. And then the clients are then instructed to follow landscape plans in future. I don't know. It's a difficult thing to balance, I'd say. But it's to show them that the capital is spent would benefit them in the long run.
Yeah. I'm hoping that I'm pronouncing the name correctly. Hupulang. You may take the
correct.
Floor. Sure.
Perfect. For me, morning, gentlemen. I think I speak on behalf, perhaps, of the collaborators who work with the team. Your work is quite commendable. I look at some of the work and think, oh, I wish I was also part of that one as well. You know, so you guys do some exceptional work. The team works very hard. I always say that your work is challenging because it's far apart. You know, the sites are very remote, and to see the skills that you apply in the kind of areas that you work in, the commuting to all these sites, and still have the energy and the heart to produce creative work in those spaces and not just tick box and go back to the city. I appreciate that. And I think it'll leave a lasting impression in those spaces for decades and centuries to come. So thank you.
Thank you, Chip.
Thank you. Yes, Boniso?
Good morning. This is actually not Boniso. It turned out that he's the one. That's why I was actually silent at first, because he sent me the link.
Somebody else. Sure, how's it?
I'm okay, how are you?
I'm good. Okay, go ahead.
Wow.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Perfect, yeah.
Yeah, apologies for the first one, because I actually got a link from Boniso, so I didn't realize that I'm being recognized as him. Anyway, thanks for the beautiful presentation, and good morning to all the colleagues, and to you, special President. For me, I think firstly, I'd like to congratulate Umfundo. We met, I think, about 20 years ago when we were doing the first year. And the funny thing that I feel I need to put up is that when we were doing our first years, he's the only one in our class and that actually understood what was architecture and what exactly was he meaning to achieve about that. I remember when we were asked who's the best in the class. I think that was our second month, and he raised his hand. He's like, I'm the best. If not, I'm going to show you all. And indeed, that's what he did. So to see him having, achieve what he has achieved, obviously with his partner, it's such inspirational. But what I actually wish to ask here, both the gentleman and the entity, is that as individuals that are actually existing in the space of architecture, through our training, we mostly learn, get equipped to be technical and understand most of the aspects about architecture as an environment and as a field. But once one decided to take a direction of self-employment, you then get to understand that, oh snap, this thing is actually more than just about architecture, because there are different segments of business understanding that you need to incorporate within what you are doing, your marketing part of it, your financial part of it, a whole lot of these things that I would say it's less emphasized within the discipline. So my question is, how over the years have you managed as a business to make sure that you cover those aspects? How have you managed to develop yourself or incorporate the certain aspect that will make your business to be developed into what it is? Thanks a lot.
It's not an easy one to answer, but I think it really helps to have two different sort of heads put together. We are very different, me and him. Yes, we were predominantly raised by females, our mothers. So that quality within ourselves or within us as individuals is always there. I mean, if you can respect a female, if you can understand what a female is all about, and if you can allow yourself to be raised by a female, I mean, you'll understand a lot of things about the world, about how the social makeup is, and you'll also decide, if you can actually decide whether you want to be this kind of person or that kind of person. I myself, I think administratively, and also in terms of doing marketing, that's my particular space. And then the design technical part, he does it quite well, perhaps better than me. As a result, when I design something myself, I take it to him and say, okay, what do you think of this? And he'll come back and say, no, what if you consider this, you consider that? And I actually take that because I am perhaps not as exposed or not as great as him when it comes to that part of things. But when it comes to marketing, administration, HR, that's my part. That's one part that I really enjoy, that I really love, that I really thrive in terms of looking at that sort of aspect. So giving each other sort of roles, specific roles, and actually inspire and sort of encourage each other to do what you are good at, and we do what you are good at as well. Actually has helped us a lot in terms of our growth path and in terms of our development as a firm. And also, perhaps when I started working, I went down to Coxton. I don't know if you mentioned that. That's where I grew up in Flagstaff, actually. So I understood quite the landscape very well there. I perhaps knew a lot of people here and there who could actually help me do certain things. I was true to myself that I must leave Johannesburg and go to that particular space, because that is where I think we will prosper a little bit better, you know. And I actually gave up the beautiful life, bright lights of Johannesburg. I went to Coxton. You know how cold Coxton is, you know how remote Coxton is. Spent a lot of time in Flagstaff, in those kind of spaces. And we're really established in those areas now. We are a household sort of name, and we understand that very well. But we know that we've got to grow out of those spaces at some point in time. That's why you see us doing work in Venda now, and all over the show. You know, we are embracing change. We are changing every day, every time, you know, because the only constant thing in life is actually change. I don't know if I answered you very well.
Yeah. And I think, Khaya, your impact is more in the rural areas. You could have been just in Joburg and decided to stay in Gauteng area. But your impact in the rural areas is absolutely felt better than it would be, I would say in Gauteng, you know. Although it's a space that you'll definitely compete in, because that's where you studied. That's where most of your contemporaries are. Malvin, I don't know if he's still there.
Morning.
Sure.
Khaya, this is probably one of the most exciting presentations I've sat through, and I just want to start off by saying congratulations, guys. You're truly inspirational. I want to challenge you guys to take what you're doing and turn it into an educational platform, because I believe African architecture needs to be taught to African architects and everyone within Africa. We need to start designing the way our people live, and you guys are doing just that. Your understanding of your context is amazing. I feel like you guys need to start educating architects, designers, and the communities on how to embrace their own culture. and how we can design cities and houses and spaces which do not change the way they've been living culturally. Gentlemen, well done.
Thanks, Robert.
That's it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah. Great, guys. I think we will stop there. I think this has been a beautiful start to the weekend. So anybody driving through Zimkulu, Flagstaff, Lusikisiki, Bizana, Port St. John's, if you see a large public building, it's probably iQhayiya Design Workshop. So guys, thank you so much. I don't know if you have any closing comments, but this has been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Skura. I'd like to just invite the team, if they can switch on their mics and just send us off.
Okay, great.
Can I come and say hi?
Or you can come here.
Yeah, please come say hi. Guys downstairs, you can come quickly to say hi. Oh, hi, Sandy. We'll see you there.
Oh, yeah.
Run, guys. No, run.
Bonga, just switch on your mic, your camera there. I don't see Baron.
To the ladies, office.
That's the
Thank
team.
you so much. Thank you, Skura.
Okay. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Lovely. Okay, but that was a fantastic way to start a weekend, guys.
Absolutely loved it. Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you, Skura, for the invite. Thank you to all the colleagues, the friends, loved ones that joined us this morning and actually sat through the presentation. It was a great privilege and an honor. And yeah, a very happy weekend to you all moving forward. And yeah, thank you for your audience.
Thank you, guys. There.
Thank
So
you.
cheers, everyone. Meeting adjourned. Everyone, may you please have a lovely weekend. See you next time.
Hello.
Go to the first page. Hi, Mr. Sankala.
Yeah, no, a great presentation indeed, and quite an inspiration to all of us. Wish you guys the best and everyone. Thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Nwobo, thank you. Amanda, Duma, hi. Bye. Nikiwe, hi, bye. Limarie, hello, bye. Johan Duplessis, hi, bye. Nosihle Mapolo, hi, bye. Sihle, Mamela.
SMB. Hi, SMB.
Robert.
Vukiland.
Okay, Tumisani. Benzuzo, hi. Angela, hi, Carl. Mngalo, hello. Clinton, hi. Sabelo, bye. Sankala, goodbye. Who else is saying? Richard. Hi, hello. Navin, hi. Letsabisa, hello. Mani, hi. Eunice, hello. Clinton, hi, bye. Smonelo, Dlamini, hello, bye. Who else? Buyanda, hello, bye. Mr. Dumagude, hi, bye. Molokwani, acknowledge you, thank you.